allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I already did the oath of office. Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. We're ready for any more discussion? Ready for the vote?
Aye.
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 And correspondence, we did get one correspondence. Okay, it's an email that was given to the town to her honor the mayor. Having read about the bond issue for the new rec center being voted down, I would like to apprise you of some friends of mine who may be interested in building the new rec center and leasing it to the county or city, ? They would build it using only green and green-friendly building materials to make it very energy efficient. They would choose the project manager and hire local people to work the construction. If this is something you feel the city and county may be interested in, send me an email and I will call you. Perhaps we could have a cup of coffee and discuss it. I have also been asked to obtain all the information I can on the old Bellevue Motel, as they are also interested to purchase that and turn it into either apartments or a B&B. I do know they will give veterans preference for jobs and also women, men too, of course. Anyway, thought I would run that by you, see what you think, and see if there is any interest on the part of the city, county leaders. Sincerely, Agnes Salisbury from Superior.
One of the things, I already talked to the owner of the Bellevue, and she gave me permission to give her home address and her phone number to the lady, which I emailed it to her. I didn't tell her anything else about the leasing.
I just heard that the Bellevue sold. Is that true?
Well, we were out there. There's somebody that was looking at it.
Still
This gentleman here is working on it. We put a meter in for him so he could get some water to one.
Okay.
I have a question, please.
Yes, sir.
When was this emailed to Sydney?
March 4th is when it was sent here to the town.
I probably did it on March 5th. I'd have to go look at my emails, sent emails. So it was in the 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that range.
Thank you.
Because the 4th was Tuesday, right?
Yes, because today's the 10th.
Yeah, 4th was Tuesday. That's the day I had to take my mom to the doctor, so it would probably been the 6th when I saw it.
Do we need to put that on the agenda for next month or something?
It's whatever the council wants to think about it. You want to think about what the cost would be for the next 50 years.
I was already thinking
Well,
about it.
they're asking to lease it to
That
the
means you
city
pay,
or the county.
Right.
that means you pay for the lease every year, and then you pay for all operations and maintenance.
Well, we probably should put it on the agenda then, so we can't really discuss it now.
So you can discuss it, you just can't act on it.
Oh, that's what, okay, fine. They want, what were they saying in there about?
I did make copies of some drawings.
I think it's a good idea to keep our options open, but yeah, I think we should just put it on the agenda.
So where's the rec center that they were talking about?
They're talking about building one.
The one that they were talking about was the one that they were going to do between the high school.
That the voters voted
With the
down.
high school?
Okay, that one.
Can you have a copy of this?
Hey, you got something you want to say, just speak up, that's what it's doing around here. Just be quiet.
Yes.
There are definitely some considerations of having a private party build it to, if they build a pool into it, that somebody's gonna be wanting to make sure that they are abiding by all of the state laws. That's just that thick, 80 or more pages.
Well, right now, it's, sorry,
Oh, no,
right now it's so vague, you don't really know what they've got entailed.
No.
What are they talking, a rec center? You know, a little room with some pool tables and video games, or, so. It's hard to tell till they expand a little bit on it.
Yeah, well, probably, and they may have a dollar limit on their end of it, but what they're looking to do is build what you would decide you wanted to lease from them, so you'd have some say in it. I've had some level of experience with that kind of project, and basically the way it works is by their leasing it to you, you don't do a bond issue, you don't have to go out for a vote. Taxpayers may not be real happy about that. The other side of that is your lease payments have to come out of your general revenue then, because if you don't do the bond issue, you don't have any source of funds other than your general revenue, so you got to be able to pay it out of your budget.
And if you went for any kind of a recreation district or anything, it would have to go to the vote of the public.
Right.
You can't raise the taxes like that in the community without, because of the charter. The charter says we have to take anything new to the vote of the public. So on the next month's agenda,
Did you still have it on the next month's agenda? It's up to you.
I just thought we had to have it on the agenda, you can discuss it, and we're discussing it, so I don't really care.
Yeah, put it on the agenda for next month and see what, maybe get a little more information from them.
okay, because she's supposed to call you, I don't know, she didn't ask me
Why
her
don't-
phone
why
number or
don't-
anything, so I don't know if she's gonna call the office or,
Yeah, go ahead and put it on,
Okay.
just in case.
Is this being brought before the county also, or?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I only got the email to the town,
Okay.
is what she could send us.
The way it sounds in the email is, yes, they're gonna bring city and the county.
Is it gonna be the same location?
No,
Don't
Who knows?
doubt it.
You're
Oh,
talking
that's
school
school
property
Yeah, that's
there.
school property, I
That's what
doubt
I'm
it,
asking.
yeah.
Yeah, I would doubt that it would be on school property, it's probably gonna have to be on a private property.
Well, they're also looking at the Bellevue Hotel, that's another part of this email.
Yeah,
So, you know,
we're
there's
not-
a couple of things.
Yeah, all we
Going
did was
on
give
here.
her the information, and I gave the owner, or I called the owner, and she gave me permission to give her information to this lady, and I gave it to her, and then that's where we can drop that at that. Bellevue doesn't really need to be on the agenda.
Moving on.
Moving on. Public comment, this is the time for anybody from the public to make comments.
I'm glad you turned the snow off.
Me
You.
too. Okay, council reports. Animal.
No activity.
We got one little black dog that I about plowed into the snowbank. It lives, I think, maybe down by
Yeah.
you,
Used to be,
kind of a collie looking thing.
oh, yeah.
Black with
that
white.
one too.
I haven't figured out where it's coming from, but it's,
It's not Charlie, is it?
I don't know who it is.
Name of it's Raider, and right across the street from us
In one of those Angelo's trailers.
yeah.
I thought I saw it come out of there and it chased, as I'm plowing, it's running in front of me. And so I thought, well, where'd you come from? But I'll try to figure out, because it's been running quite a bit.
They do put it in the yard, and it's either climbing over the fence, or it's finding a place to
Some way
crawl
to
under
get
the
out,
fence.
yeah. It's a nice little dog, but
It
it
is.
still gets in the way.
That is the one that runs for me then.
I think so, yeah.
I can give him a call.
Yeah,
Parks.
No activity.
Nope, not yet. Hopefully the snow's gone and then we'll start activity. But I was whining about that earlier, so.
Okay, crime in court.
Okay. In the city of Superior, we have 9 cases that were cleared, 3 arrests or citations for a total of 12. For offenses, incidents, City of Superior, 13 were cleared, 4 unfounded, 1 arrest or citation for a total of 18. Traffic stops, City of Superior, 4 warnings, 3 citations or arrests, and for a total of 7. Is that how that's?
Yep.
Good. And this is again for the town: 1, obstructing a peace officer or other public servant; 2, disorderly conduct; 1, operating with expired registration, failure to re-register; 1, Montana resident operating with foreign driver's license over 60 days; 1, driving a motor vehicle while privileged to do so is suspended or revoked; 1, owner permitting operation of vehicle without liability insurance, third and subsequent offense; 1, failed to carry proof or exhibit insurance in the vehicle, owner or operator, and third or subsequent offense; 1, driving under the influence of alcohol, first offense; 1, failed to have lamps lighted when required; and 1, failed to have vehicle equipped with white license plate lamp legible for 50 feet.
Just one question. I know we had talked about the four-way stop over here on River Street and Mullins. Have we gotten anything back
Have
from
not received anything back from the state
the
yet.
state?
Okay, pool, no activity.
There is a little. I ordered the pool pump today. Called Steve Moran and he's gonna get it coming. He says 3 to 4 weeks, but I didn't wanna wait too long.
Okay, sewer.
All checks and maintenance is being done, all testing has been completed, the final lift station had 1 plug up and draft wastewater permit has been received.
Somebody, we always blame it on the jail. Somebody at the jail lost a pair of underwear. It was in our pump. And it plugged it up pretty good and we got that out. And then we had another one this morning. And it was a small piece of cloth got in one and then the other one kicked out too. So both of them had kicked out when we showed up. And our alarms did not go. The little flashy light was going and the siren was going, but our radios didn't do anything. So I called those people to tell them they need to come down and find out what's going on, because I don't know, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago they were down somewhere in there and did some work and everything was fine. But when we had the power go out during one snowstorm, we got 1 lift station say power failure and all 4 are supposed to sound off. So there's something going on with them, so we got to get them back in here.
I'll let Keith know.
And then the permit we filled out 2 years ago, at least 2 years ago. And they just now got us the draft, and then you have 30 days to read it and see if there's anything. The last one we contested and got a little bit back. This one doesn't look like it's going to be too much different. It looks like they're going to add a couple more things that we're going to have to test for, iron, manganese. We don't have that on our permit. I don't know how much those tests will cost, but I'll read through it and see if there's anything that's real scary. And otherwise, we should have a permit, and then that's good for 5 years.
They only knew we had a new mayor. Took them 2.5 years to get a draft permit, but they knew we had a new mayor.
Orange coveralls one time, a whole set.
Water, all checks and maintenance is being done, all testing has been completed, west well still down.
It's operable, except that it doesn't have that old style pressure. It's got a on and off switch that's fed by pressure, so if it drops below 45 psi it'll kick on. That's if the tank gets too low, and then when it gets up to 125 it'll come back on. And the 2 old ones have that. It's kind of a nice backup. When that heater failed, it froze the 2 bottom valve solenoids, and I called around got the number off the Autocon and got this one company and said, oh yeah, it's been sold three times, and Siemens bought it, and we bought Siemens, and we discontinued everything that they were making. He says you'll never find any parts. That's what his exact words. And fortunately, it runs without it, but so we're running the other two, and so I called the guy that put all our telemetry in when we bought this water system, and he says there's new and updated stuff, it's gonna cost. But we still want that added backup, because if the telemetry fails, at least this is just done by pressure. The other ones are level, it senses level, and so if that goes out, this will come on. If the water gets down to like 2 feet in that tank, it'll kick on. So he's sent us an estimate, 2,400 to 3,000, depends on, until he looks at it. For sure, he'll try to keep it, as they all say, at the lower end, but we don't know. So he's gonna have to retrofit 2 of them. He's gonna try to do that towards the end of March.
Streets.
All plowing and sanding is being done as needed.
I think the last meeting I was saying that it was the slowest year I ever had.
You caught up.
The busiest February I ever had. Holy smokes.
I was cussing you one morning.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure, everybody was coming, I was plowing in everybody, and then they get burned, then we got the melting, and I get down at her corner, it's
She's
a
got the lake.
bad corner, so what I did with that is I just take the bucket and push it all the way across to the other side, so that would give it room to drain back in, and then I push it back over. I think we're past the worst of it for now, but. So if the snow doesn't come, we're gonna bring the sweeper in, because as soon as it dries out, then we'll be getting the complaints how dusty it is.
I do want to make a comment, though. I had a problem with my street, and he did come and fix me the next morning, so thank you, Roger.
Yep.
Fire. 3 emergency calls, 2 training meetings, generator grant, energy offset grant, tender project, dispatch project, awards dinner, fireman's room, recruiting and retention.
Okay, the generator project is now complete, other than just some paperwork I have to file. And I'm waiting for them to come back to me, because there's a closeout letter, and in the closeout letter that they want me to file, it says everything's completed, including the audit. Obviously, the audit for what I did last week won't be completed until next year. So I'm not going to send them a letter that says it is, so I said, okay, what do you want me to do with this? But the generator is complete, it's run under load. It will now kick on every Tuesday morning at 10:30 and run under load, and then shut itself back off automatically as a test. And that once-a-week test is one of the conditions of ISO, considering it a fully compliant auxiliary power system for your fire hall, which gets you ISO points for your insurance rating. So that's all taken care of and up and running. The electrical work definitely cost us more than Larry Meter had told us it was going to cost us by quite a bit, but we still actually ended up substantially under the one turnkey quote I got from the gentleman to come in and do the whole project himself, instead of us putting it in, getting the generator, and then pouring the pad, and then hiring the electrician. We still were well under that cost, but it was over what we thought it was going to be.
First part of the mapping for the hydrants is done, so.
Okay, cool, great.
So I can change symbols on this. I don't know what your red, blue, and single yellow, what that particularly means, but you know, you can put those type of things on here. And he just did enough of it so I could at least show you a prelim map of what was going on there. And just kind of check and balance and see that they're all on there and stuff, so.
Well, the red is a standard hydrant, I can tell you. The blue and the yellow is a substitute for white. A few of our hydrants have either blue or white caps on, which will give you a little history of the fire service in a nutshell. Some of these hydrants are used hydrants that they apparently picked up in other locations. Used to be in the fire service that every fire department had its own idea as to what the right thread was. And so we have some hydrants that have oddball threads. We have adapters on the trucks that are painted the same colors as the caps for the oddball, and the white caps are actually something called Missoula thread, and the blue caps are Pacific Coast thread. There are also things like New York thread, Chicago thread, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Would you want that on?
The
As a
colors are
legend,
good. Having just the colors
Just
is
the
all I
colors?
need. Yep. Thank you. And then probably I'll get together with you and I'll probably actually want some smaller sets
Yeah,
that we can just put in the engine.
he had to remote in and just do that on my machine, so I
Yep.
could at least plot that, kind of show
Yep.
you.
Right, and then I'll get together with you, we'll put some smaller sets in the maps, and what this will let the guys do is as soon as they pull out the door, the engine captain can be pulling out in the map and saying, okay, here's where I'm going, here's where the hydrant is, and hit the hydrant on the way in, and it'll definitely help and make it more efficient. And that's
And
just...
Do you do flow rates on your hydrant?
We have tested them off and on, and I'll tell you right now, these are wonderful hydrants. I've got hydrants that have that do over 1,000 gallons a minute. I don't think I've seen any much below 750. They're good. I like them.
It really helped when we did those two projects with the water and got rid of a lot of small mains and put in all of the, between 8 and 10 and 12-inch mains, tied things in. That really boosted the flow.
Yeah, there are a couple of them that move so much water. When you go to test them, you put the diffuser on there, you open the hydrant, and it's flowing so much water the thing's shaking and vibrating. It feels like it's gonna blow right off the top of the pipe. It's like, yo. Yeah, no, there's excellent water supplies.
Council concerns? Unfinished business, floodplain study.
I think that you have a half bill in your consent agenda tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I haven't got confirmation that, Runa and Economic had paid their part of it. I specifically had sent requests that tell me when you pay it or ask that they tell me when they pay it and do that stuff, so I'll just kinda keep following up on that. I was hoping that we didn't, have the town pay and then who knows when the other one comes in there, but, to see how that one goes. The other thing with that then, the questions that FEMA asked, they've been answered and it's been sent in, and, so then the short-term step of, my understanding is that we need to take the, study to the DNRC, get them to consent that they find it acceptable and that, it fits with their programs and however they would, view it, and that doesn't seem to be a lot of it. I think that they like to have a public hearing at that point and throw it out there for public comment. It would be probably a joint public comment where the town could be adopting the study at the same time. So you need to go through and officially adopt it, and then the other thing that has just come out now, I kind of held back and didn't do a lot with it, but they finally released what they considered, and I called and confirmed this with the state. They have the final version of the floodplain regulations out there, so I don't know that, I guess there's kind of two things. We could send this model regs to Tom to take a look over, or I could try to go through and draft a model regulation that would have the right verbiage and different things in it that, then we could send that to him to take a look at it, and however, but whatever the council kind of would like, what direction you'd like me to go, I just, but you,
Can we get a copy of that?
of this floodplain regulation? Yeah, I just printed off a couple pages in here. I haven't given you this, it's 55 pages, so that's why I'm, what do we wanna do with it? If you wanna take a look at it and see what it is, we can generate a copy and give it to everybody. So, start there okay, I'll work to that end and get it sent over to you, and then, there's fill-ins that are colored, I color under bit the dust and stuff, so I guess we could talk about that, how we figure that part of it, so.
Hey, what's the gist of it?
What's
As far-
that?
What did it take out of the floodplain? How did it change the floodplain?
He's out. So. They won't ask for floodplain insurance for any of those high houses up there and do that. It moved it back over so that several of the businesses and did that. But, you know, there's obviously Napa and Old Cessna Store, those things are not removed in there, but then again, if they wanna do construction-wise or do something, I'm in a position that I could issue a permit for some kind of construction.
That they could mitigate it and get out of the floodplain?
No, they're not gonna get out of it, they just have to flood-proof and build accordingly and stuff.
Exactly.
And then the next big step here is to start going after some of these mitigation funds that are out there that I've just totally got the runaround about every which way, cause you have to do this first, no, you gotta do this first, and they keep switching on me, but once we get the floodplain study adopted, then we can go after, at times, the state had banked up to $3 million and just wasn't spending this mitigation money, and the feds told them to get after it and get it spent, so right now I'm not sure what's there. There's a floodplain conference coming up in a couple of weeks in Billings, I'll get some more information on that then, but we could come back in there and try to design some project where we could do flood proofing for those structures that are down there for the worst way, and at least, you know, take a look at it, study it, and if there's some obvious things that you could do to protect them in a high water event, then go through that process.
Hey Tim, is there someplace a person can access that online, the new map? Is it?
Not yet. No, we'll probably just have to end up having copies of it here because I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but they usually write down at the bottom that this will not result in a map panel revision. If we go through, the county goes through and we have map modernization and we look at all of our segments of the floodplain and they republish, you know, or they digitize it and stuff like that, then we'll have new maps that will refer to it. But right now, we're just gonna have to basically work off the paper copy of doing that and stuff. Now, it's on the web, and you can see it at the web at a point in time, but we won't just get a new town map, which irks me because I would really like to see a new town map because not only take care of that side, but take care of that side too, or this side and both sides of it and stuff, because we really didn't get a revised map the last time we went through a revision of the floodplains.
You said you could find it on the web, where would a person look for that?
Well, there's a map document center, and in there, then you need to know the firm panel, the actual panel in that.
It's the one for the whole floodplain of this?
No, it's just the one for Superior. It would be Superior's in there. But like I say, it won't make it on that webpage for probably another 2, 3, 4 months or whatever till the FEMA gets it done. I don't know what the lag time is between having this study accepted and when they actually get it out there. But they show up there, you know, it might be 30 or 60 days or something like this.
Thank you.
Audit exit conference.
May I pull up a chair?
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's been a long day. And we have 3 new council members, so I don't think I'm gonna get by with the short conference, or the short exit conversation. Please interrupt me at any time if you have questions, don't understand something. I'm gonna go through a little bit more detail than I have in the past. We'll start on our independent auditor's report. In the last couple of years, it's been about a page and a half, about 4 or 5 paragraphs. Now we've expanded it. It's my profession's attempt to communicate more clearly what we do in an audit. And so we even come up with little subheadings there saying, this is a report on your financial statements, and basically we audit your financial statements. It's your documents that we're examining. Management, Brenda, is responsible for the development of these. And our responsibility is to audit. The audit is a series of tests, and we study your system and internal control your flow of transactions, and then design tests to test whether or not you're getting the revenues and everything, all the systems for checks and balances and expenditures, safeguarding of assets, etc. Then at the last sentence of that particular section is, we believe we did enough work to support what we are about to say in the opinion that your financial statements present fairly the financial position of the town, the results of operation. Okay? The next page has a couple, 4 or 5 more paragraphs. It makes reference to your supplemental schedules within the audit report, beyond the basic financials required by generally accepted accounting principles. We also issue a report in compliance with governmental audit standards. There's generally no comments in that particular report. That's where we report a material fraud or misstatements and stuff like that. But it's usually big stuff. I've never had a comment in that report in my career. The next report, since you handle more than $500,000 in federal financial assistance, deeper in the report is the audit in accordance with OMB Circular A-133, where we expand testing on normally your largest program to issue an opinion on whether or not you complied with the rules and regulations applicable to that group of programs. You've had no comments relative to the federal financial audit. Now, if you go to you rookies, the first thing you do when you pick up an audit report is go to the back there and find where the comments are. It's about the 3rd page from the last. That's where the I gotchas go. Now, Section 2 of the financial statements, we've had the segregation of accounting duties since I first became your auditor several years ago. Brenda is basically your only person in the internal control structure. Ruth has taken over some duties, some days, but we still don't feel comfortable. Brenda wanted to, she could totally take control. She can sign the checks, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a question on the word control? The other one is on your Fireman's Relief and Disability Fund. There's a minor violation as far as the levies relative to that fund. You're doing all you can to meet the requirements. It's in strict violation of the letter of the law. We have to put it in there. We've had it in there for about 4 or 5 years as I recall. So these are things to cover my professional side and to make you aware of these, basically why they're there. So there's still a sound system working very well in this community. Going back to the front. Management discussion and analysis.
Hey, Gordon, is there anything you would change on our controls, or?
No.
No?
One of the things we do, Angela, is that like Roger and John always look at the bills, invoices that when I get them, I actually have these guys check them and look them over. That's why they're sitting here for you guys to look at, because I want every pair of eyes on them besides me, you know.
She does have the stamp, though. The rubber stamp. That always bothers me, but that's the biggest weakness.
You want me to take it away from her?
That's up to you. You want to come down every time she needs a signature. I mean, I know she has not abused it, but we do adjust our testing for that particular issue.
Yeah, because I don't.
I know. We've observed.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next several pages is Brenda develops this document. She submits it to the council, I believe, in about September, maybe a little earlier.
This year I didn't because we changed it all.
Yes. The audit report compared to prior years has been, it's been updated. Let's just leave it there. It's a lot more smoother to read. It's more precise. Just ramble on like what accountants sometimes do. So going to your financial statements on pages 12 and 13. To keep you totally confused, we present things in 2 different ways. And then Brenda keeps the accounting records in a 3rd way. Okay, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, this is government accounting.
So this is what we call the governmental-wide financial statements. We try to resemble what Main Street America uses for their private enterprise businesses. We record the full value of your fixed assets and include the depreciation here. We recognize all your taxes receivable is already earned, even though they haven't been collected. We're putting in additional payables that are sitting out there for such as when you had the health insurance liability, which we don't have anymore. So there's additional long-term, bigger picture presentation. It's not what we work with on a day-to-day basis. I don't have any highlights to point out at those 2 pages. The next pages, 14 and 50, is more what you use and what more resembles what you get in reports from Brenda. As you come across, you've got your general fund, street fund, your capital improvements, fire department fund, GO bonds, and we lump all your other little funds, your comprehensive insurance fund, you have a housing fund. Thank you. But you got several other funds that are relatively small that we combine into other. Now, these 2 pages do not include the activities of your enterprise funds, your water and sewer. When you go to page 15, highlights is what I would see as your big accomplishments. You get down to the capital outlay, you spent $750,000 on your fire hall and your new city hall, and then you also bought some other equipment. That's a big thing in this community, and I have reason to be proud of it. In the capital improvements fire hall, you can see where you paid off the bond. You've been borrowing short-term financing, and then you ended up paying that off with your bond. As you come across in the net change of fund balance, coming across the 3rd line from the bottom, general fund grew a little bit. Street fund pretty well stayed steady, small decrease. Your other governmental funds in whole decreased by the 84,000. That's where your a lot of your capital improvements were made from. So they got capitalized, is the reason the overall decrease there. Still sound financial position when you look at the fund balance from year to year. Page 16 is the reconciliation from the first 2 pages that I skipped over to the last 2 pages that we went into a little bit more depth. The differences in depreciation and how revenue is recognized. Bonds are recognized as revenue in the last 2 pages, whereas they're not recognized as a revenue financing source in the first 2. Pages 17 and 18 is your revenue funds, enterprise funds, water activities, sewer activities. It's going along very well. As I was reviewing this, I looked at your sewer fund earlier, and you get down there to the change in that position. It went down by $23,000 for the year. That's usually an indication you're potentially losing money. But if you go up to the depreciation line item and expenses, there's $65,000 of depreciation, which is your non-cash expense. You built the sewer system many years ago. We're writing it off over 30, 40 years, and that's the depreciation number. Cash flow, the sewer fund is still doing well. If the deficit, the negative number continues to grow, or year after year, it could become a problem. It's just worries. It just warrants additional monitoring over the course of the next few years. One year, I came out here and made that statement, and before I got up, you guys have raised sewer rates. I don't advocate that.
So we actually cash flowed 44,000 on the sewer.
Yes, and you're being able to set aside. So there's some other small fund financial disclosures, then we get to the notes of the financial statements. Pages 31 and 32 has been totally rewrote relative to your long-term debt. Considering that you borrowed $951,000 last year and paid off $498,000, overall you're up about $450,000 in debt. But for a city, for what you've accomplished, I think you're well leveraged. You've got a lot of equity relative to the debt. Well financed. Good job. And we even go a little bit more in the next 4 pages, but that's the highlights of the audit report I'd like to bring to your attention. To the new members, you might want to go back to page 40. Since this is a audit in accordance to A133, we are required to put in the schedule of federal domestic assistance expenditures. Last year you spent $717,000 of federal financial assistance. I think we also had some federally guaranteed loans, didn't we? We got rid of it, right?
Yeah, people at the state revolving fund
I'm talking-
agreed that as long as I'm here and we pay, the payments continue to be paid on time, they will not require us to have an A-133 on theirs.
That's awesome. That's big.
But if change clerks, you're gonna go back to.
She's got leverage come negotiation.
Explain the A-133.
That's the federal part of the audit that's required on any of the federal funds that is above
Currently,
500,000
it's
now?
currently 500,000. It's going to go to $750,000. If you expend $750 or have $750,000 of federal debt, then you are required to go to this compliance level audit. And the report that refers to is on page 43 and 44. If you're,
And we did refinance part of the water and sewer loan again, or restructured the interest rates down,
awesome.
so.
So this is what I call the long version.
Sounds good.
Thank you. We appreciate your business, and it's sure nice not doing two exit conferences in the same night. Normally, I do Deer Lodge in Powell County High School here.
Seemed like it.
This is the first year I got out of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your business.
Yeah. It was nice to get out of that A-133 audit.
So if this amount goes over 750,000, it picks up.
Right, and because we have like the big water and sewer loans, a lot of those are federal funds, that's what was queuing that in a lot of the time until we did the bond, that helped us this year. But the sewer loans and when we called Anna with the auditor, we talked to her, that's what she said, that as long as I could do it, so.
Hey Brenda, with the cash flow we're getting off the water and the sewer, we,
Putting it away into the
reallocate it
replacement.
into reserves?
It's, yeah, 30,000 of the, we always keep some to continue to work as cash flow, but we put 30,000 a year into the replacement depreciation fund. And we put 50,000 into the replacement depreciation fund for the water.
how much bad debt do we have to write off?
I don't consider we have had debt.
You haven't had to write off any?
No,
Oh,
I
we
add
have
it to your
taxes.
taxes. No, I don't consider that they can't pay. It's one way or another, it's, you know,
Have we ever flat lost it?
we lost when we bought the water system. And, yeah, and rural utilities insisted.
We assumed the receivables.
Yes, we lost 12 grand. We had to write off about 12 grand, between 10 and 12 grand there. And I fought like crazy, and Mitch Cobb told me a couple years after that, he said, you were right, we shouldn't have made you buy that. I was like, wish you would have thought about that when I wanted you to not do it. Because it was almost impossible to collect. Because they had tenants, they pretty much quit collecting, there were tenants that had been gone for a year, and there's no way to collect it. And I put it in all into the collection bureau, and we got a little bit of it back, but not much.
Right, planning board bylaws.
I've taken it upon the planning board to revise bylaws, older bylaws that have been out there for quite some time, they're pretty well dated. I drafted these up and put them together, then I decided that I would consult with Dave de Grand Prix and throw them over to him and let him take a look at that. He's had extensive experience in eastern Montana where they have combined planning boards, and he suggested that we take a look at considering having what's called a consolidated planning board, and that's where these would be headed. With the consolidated planning board, that means that there'd be 3 entities or more involved in that. What typically happens in that case, though, is that if the town of Superior had a proposal, we really don't need the town of Alberton having a lot of influence about your proposal. That would then mean that we'd have to facilitate the planning board by increasing membership. And I just think it's gonna be pretty much an impossibility, the way I see it, that we would increase our current 9 members up to 14 members, so that you would have basically 4 members from each of the 2 towns, and then 4 members for the county and the CD, and there's probably still one short somewhere around there or something like that, but then the planning board members that the commissioners would appoint and the town would appoint would act on that town's thing, and the other people would just sit by and listen to the discussion is the idea.
That's the new idea, Tim? Is that what you're
That's
saying,
the
with
new idea.
13 members?
Is to have, yeah.
So they would abstain on the vote then?
Yeah, they just, if there was a subdivision within the town limits, the people from Alberton would just stand by. They wouldn't really, you know, there might be some question about having a quorum or something like that, but that still shouldn't be an issue, I don't think. So that's one of the ideas that he suggested and he threw back at me, but just over my years that, you know, I've been doing this to try to get representation on the planning board, it's going to be tough. He cleaned up wording in there where it needed to be and dates where it needed to be, so other than the membership, I really concur with what he did and how he came up with it, and that's good. But right now, we both, after several phone calls and some discussion, decided that really this is gonna be a question if we're gonna keep the same 9 members, and in essence, what you would do in that case then is that Alberton would have 2 members, Superior would have 2 members, and then the commissioners would appoint 4, and then this conservation district would be the 9th member in that. And a couple of complicating things. One of them is that you don't have a class city, so cities can influence an area around them, but it's not clear that towns can do that. And so you could have a planning board member from inside the town, or somebody on the council, and then you could have somebody outside, you know, in this supposed area that you're concerned about, but you really don't have that designation because you're a town. So that's another part that I'm hesitant about, is that, you know, you don't have this influence zone that you can go out and select people from and do that. I guess the question would be like Peggy Temple. Technically she doesn't live in the town of Superior. She owns property in the town of Superior, but she's really close to the edge of the town, you know. That would be like a consideration for that would be a Superior representative type thing in there, so. So where we're at right now is that we were both kind of stymied, because I'm pretty adamant that I would like to see 9 members on the board, and at that point in time, you really need to consult with your legal advice, legal, you know, opinion, and say, what do you think about staying with a planning board membership that would be 9, where there would be 2 from each of the 2 towns and 4 from the commissioners, and do that, so.
What are you doing right now, Tim? As far as...
How'd you pick it around? No, we have 1, and we have 1, and then we have countywide. And credit Kelly with you know, being adamant and saying about that. He says, I don't really think that that's the representation that we find necessarily, you know, just fair. Yes, there hasn't been very much representation, but not even having 2 members on the planning board that, you know, reside from the town and things like that. So that's what I tried to do, is say, okay, if a town wants more representation, let's go that way. But if they don't, then, you know, they don't necessarily have to do that either.
But if there's a project in town now, all the members vote.
Everybody votes on it.
Gotcha. And the way you're talking about doing it is Alberton wouldn't vote on a Superior project.
No, I guess I'm talking about everybody's gonna vote on a project. There would just be, but you would have 2 people from the town that would be considered town representatives from Superior and Alberton. So increase the representation by the two towns and take some representation away from the commissioners. But right now, is it workable? Would a lawyer think that that's an acceptable number of members like that? So,
Seems like a lot of members to me.
You know, when you consider the population of the county, we've got 4,200 thereabouts, 9 peoples, not a bad number.
Yeah, the more people you get into a discussion, it's harder to make a decision.
But then, you know, coupled with that is that if you look at the population, the 900 that are here are a quarter of the population, and you don't have a quarter representation on the planning board. So that's why I agree with Kelly's assessment is that you should, you know, if you want to have more representation, you certainly should be entitled to it. There shouldn't be a limitation on, you know, having a couple of people. And the way I would like to put it though is that my sense from Alberton is that they have one, that's good enough for them. They're not really interested in increasing it. So.
I would agree with them.
So it would, you know, if we could engage Tom, and you know, I don't know if he'd need me to write something up more about it, or you know, to send that off to him, and just maybe make a memo to you that you know, you could consider, and then we could send that off to Tom and just see if I supposedly took this to the Alberton Council last week, but I wasn't able to get there, and anyway, they kind of looked at it and said, "Huh, that's cool," and pitched it over the corner and didn't do anything with it. So, but I would appreciate Tom's input. I think he would give us.
I'd like to get a quick recap on that. I'm a little confused. So you want to keep it at 9, but you want to put more representation from the towns?
Right.
Is that what we're saying?
Right.
So you want to go 4, you want to go 2, 2, and 4?
And 4, and then there's always, the way the statute is for the state, the conservation district is always entitled to have a representative.
So that'd be the 9.
And that's, yeah, it's just a standing permanent position out there. And, you know, we've been pretty hit and miss about electing our now it's gonna be president and or vice chair, whatever. There, I mean, we're the wording that's in this is matching up with state law. That's the important thing. So whatever, if we have president, vice president, or however it is, or chairman, vice chairman, I think it's president and vice president. So it just does a lot. But we're supposed to have that meeting to elect those positions that the planning board would have at the first of the year and do that. The other thing that if there was a situation where the funding was put together by the planning board and then that was presented to the commissioners and or maybe the councils and the commissioners or something like that, there would probably be a little more impetus to sit there and have the increased membership and do that. But right now, the commissioners, they're the ones that's gonna approve the funding for the planning position, and I have to support the planning board on it. And sometimes it's pretty expensive to, you know, I'm paying mileage for everybody that's a little ways away. We can't settle on what's the fair distance to start paying mileage, other than we know that Kelly gets taken to the cleaners every time.
I still think 47 miles is a good.
Yeah, you think, beyond that, so, you know, there's some things, but you know, the ads in the paper anymore, I don't know if Brenda's noticed, or maybe they've got a little later there was for a while there, the ads were just bouncing all over for cost. I mean, I started paying $150 for an ad, and it was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's some that have been just astronomical.
So,
That's why we don't see the full page ad in the paper for the annual water consumer confidence report anymore. They wanted $1,200 for it 2 years ago. Before that, we were paying about $450. So we went, well, we can, you know, pay for the copying it and stuffing it in the envelopes and mailing it.
I guess, my opinion is, I would agree with the 9 members. I think 14 is just getting too big, and again, I go back to, you get a smaller group, you get decisions made.
yeah. And I just, at this point in time, with having very few subdivisions to even consider, you know, there's just not if something, I guess, broke all loose and it just all got wild and everything else, there's no reason you can't come back and visit that and say that you would like to change that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Tim, you're going to submit a memo then?
Yeah.
Okay, and then send it to legal counsel for,
Yeah, I just ask a couple pointed questions if that is in the consideration of the MCAs that, set this forward. Could we have a 9-member board and be considered non-challengeable, I guess is the main thing. You just don't want to set yourself up where you get a controversial subdivision, somebody takes you to court, although I don't know how they take planning boards to court, but everything is a precedent in Renata County, and they've taken their planning board to court. It's an advisory group, I don't know how or what, but so anyway, we just need to try to cover those bases.
Okay.
Thanks.
River Ridge Subdivision Ponds, neighbor's request.
We only received 2 letters talking about filling the ponds in, and did receive 1 phone call from Mr. Pritchett, who's in Florida at the moment. He's really not against the ponds, he'd like them cleaned up a little bit and that, but he, likes to see the wildlife, so. And I don't know if you could really force him to
Yeah,
fill in their
do we have a
ponds.
way to
I don't think so, that's their own property, and, the town accepted,
Community decay ordinance or something like that.
and the council accepted, cash in parklands on those two, or on that subdivision on River Ridge.
Yeah, I don't think you could force them. It was simply if they wanted to fill them in to avoid the liability, you could allow them, but you couldn't force them.
They would have to come back to the planning board and make that kind of request, wouldn't they? Tim, or not?
That would
Could be.
well, it'd be interesting because they presented that, and I might have to just take one real quick look at the plat and everything else. If they represented those ponds on the plat, it's the governing authority that has a right to basically alter that plat. So you might be in a position that you have to approve that they altered that and filled that in, because you basically accepted that as your cash in lieu was because they didn't pay it the first time, and since they wanted the property back, that they used that as their mitigation before, and so they were taking it back basically, so they had to pay the cash in lieu, but you didn't get cash in lieu again. You accepted the improvements in the trails and the ponds, you accepted that as a mitigation for open space and doing that you would provide that, so, and, that's a leftover one that gets really tough for me, because the first one really didn't come out to be public, and so you can't turn around and mix and all of a sudden and say all this stuff was public, so that's why it didn't get put in a public format before when we did the River Ridge, because you don't want to mix. You don't want to have an older subdivision that said nothing about the public accessing and then the new subdivision having an access, because you didn't subdivide the same exact property. You subdivided part of it and then part of it, so don't mix those on there. And that's, same thing about the road.
Well, you lost me, Tim, so you're saying we do have the authority to,
I don't think you have, well, that would be a good, that would be a good question. You might be able to exert some authority that you saw there, but I guess what I see is that you are kind of on both sides. You accepted it, you wanted them to put it in because that was what you were gonna use for the mitigation and the open space and providing that out there. If they don't provide open space, then they can do cash in lieu of and select an area and do that. So whatever that would be. But you didn't take cash in lieu, you didn't insist on it. You said, okay, we'll accept all the open space. And they certainly were talking about the ponds at that point in time. So it was like, well, gee, why did you accept the ponds back here and now tell us to fill them in? I guess that's where I would come from.
Well, were they, I guess my answer to that would be, or my question to that would be, Tim, did they say they were going to do something with the ponds that they haven't done? In other words, you guys, you can have the pond, you can have this open space, and what are you gonna do with it? I mean, in lieu of cash, we said we would accept that, but did they agree to do anything with it other than just have ponds, or
Was there an upkeep on it or
was there
something?
any kind of upkeep for it, or was there any promise
It's, yeah.
that they were going to?
They're responsible for the upkeep because they didn't wanna go back and really get themselves in a position that they avoided before. When they developed the open space and put in the short driving ranges down there and do that, they really separated that from the homeowners association. And the homeowners didn't pay towards the golf course and that open space and the upkeep, and they did that. It became a real point of contention. Well,
And that was in the original greens of Cedar Creek, wasn't it?
right, in the greens of
The
Cedar
first
Creek.
subdivision.
So they were gonna go back and create the dichotomy where it wasn't public before, now it's public again. They decided just to keep it again on that. But they kept it because they phased this, and the upper bench and the upper lots now have become subdivided lots, but there's another section of 19 lots that they anticipated that they would have come back in and subdivided, and that would have been the second phase of this River Ridge. But it was contingent on the floodplain amendment being accepted, the LOMAR, that they didn't complete the first time, and I said, we're not going anywhere this time, you're gonna do a LOMAR, or you're not gonna subdivide it. Well, it didn't get finished fast enough for them, so they just subdivided a lot that weren't affected by the floodplain, but they wanted to do a second phase. Market falls apart, they're not doing the second phase.
Okay. Well, I guess my question then is this, from Anil and Jerry Rasmussen, Pritchard?
Douglas Pritchett, yeah.
Okay. According to, for them, they're happy as can be just to let the ponds exist, but they want them cleaned up. So who's responsible for cleaning it up?
Well, the developers, the Superior Golf Group LLC, that they've kept control of that property, and
So how do we get them to clean it up?
Well, to me, cleaning it up is point of view. What you think is cleaned up, they won't think, I guarantee you, because you want them to clean it all up, make it look park-like, that won't be what they think. So it's, to me, that would be relative to what they want to do. I don't think we have any guidelines at all on anything like that. Because the cattails, you can't even see the ponds.
No.
So, and they started tearing them out, but then they quit on that too, so I don't know where you could push them to do anything.
Well, if it's, becomes a swamp rather than a pond, aren't they against what they originally said that they were gonna do there?
Probably, but they've got circulating water in there. Those ponds will circulate through each other. And it's fed by well. So they made it so it was a live, active pond.
I mean, again, and what Roger's saying is, well, what's the definition of a pond before you can, they said they were gonna do ponds, how do you go after them for not doing what they said they were gonna do if you don't have a more detailed maintenance requirement? They'd say, well, if we said we were gonna do ponds, that's a pond. Lots of ponds have cattails in them. So there's probably not much of a lever there. I think your lever would be something that was in the original subdivision that set standards, and if it's not there, it's not there.
One of their complaints, and it's very odorous, is there a way that the health department can be brought into this and ask them, okay, is there a health issue here?
I have no idea. Yep.
I don't think that you could really demonstrate that there's just this incredible breeding ground of mosquitoes in that particular location versus any other place, along the river and has high water marks and stuff. I don't see that. In consulting with the county attorney, this county and I'm not gonna speak for the town, cause, you know, Brenda can help me here, but we don't have a nuisance ordinance, the DK ordinance to do that, where you really, that's how, if you're gonna take up issue with somebody,
Community decay ordinance.
you know, you do that, so, you know, if you go through that process and you think that it's, you know, would fall under that, then, yeah, you can write them a letter and tell them to address it from that standpoint and do that.
And they're not stagnant ponds,
Yeah.
they're circulated ponds.
Now,
So-
Roger, I haven't been down there in a couple of years, and I don't remember half what it looks like down there, but there's the ponds they built, and then aren't there some naturally occurring places there? Some of it's just apparently, I'm going with what they were talking about here at that last meeting.
Well, yeah, there's some low spots like on that trail that's not, that's just where all the snow melt and the rain and everything goes, so you'll have those.
Yeah, 'cause they were talking something like 5 ponds they had down there.
Well, they had 3 upstairs, up above, and then they were gonna build some down below, but that part never went. There's 3. The 2 big ones, they're connected by a little, small ditch, and then the far little one is a long way, and when that's circling, you can see the water coming out of the overflow, and then it goes back. So to make it into, say that it was a insect breeding ground, they'd have to do some proving of that.
So they're counting as a melt, essentially a snow melt or
Yeah.
water runoff as one pond, but there's actually only 3 that were built, the other 2 that they were talking
The other
about.
2 would be in the second phase.
Yeah,
That would have to come back for the planning board and then the council.
and it fills with water, they're full of water down below now.
Okay.
You know, and that slowly will drain away as it dries out, but they weren't built ponds.
Yeah, they won't be full year round. you're
No,
saying.
they'll be dry pretty quick. Once the ground warms up, then it'll take it all.
Any more discussion? Resolution number 394, MMIA Restated Workers' Compensation Program Agreement.
MMIA is the Montana Municipal Interlocal Authority. Yes, yes. We are in an insurance pool, is what it is. It's an insurance pool, and we do all of our workers' comp, all of our liability, all of our property, and all of our health insurance through them now. So every few years, they have amendments and revisions to meet the new laws and everything, so that's what we're doing.
Short version. Resolution number 394, resolution approving and adopting the Montana Municipal Interlocal Authority Revised and Restated Workers' Compensation Program Agreement, dated July 1st, 2014. Any discussion? Motion actually is what I need, right? I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept resolution 394.
I'll second it. Discussion. This will take 2 readings, will it pass, right?
No, not a resolution, no.
Resolution.
Resolution is only policy, essentially the regulations, and this is an agreement. We've been in, with MMIA on this, on workman's comp since about '86. Cause that was the first program that they put in.
Ready for the question?
Aye.
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 Annual Town Cleanup Day.
Do you wanna have it again?
Oh, yeah. I let the junk get rid of it.
Well, okay, so I put the dates in on your green sheet.
Yep.
Isn't the third weekend?
14th
Yeah,
is,
14th.
14th is the second.
What, isn't it
Or
in June
15th.
usually the,
Car show is
Car
the
show?
first weekend. Yes.
which it would be seventh?
I think so. I'm not
And
sure.
then the 14th is Father's Day?
Uh-huh. That's why I just put all four of them in there and you guys get to decide.
They're too far out for me to decide. Pick one. 28th. Make a motion to pick the 28th.
I second.
What's wrong with 21st?
I just picked one.
Kelly will give you another week to get more stuff out there. You can pick up, right?
Sometime this summer I've got to go to Alaska.
It's not as bad as the first
You
one.
want it sooner than summer is what you're looking for?
Actually, I don't really wanna go to Alaska, I just have to. 28th's good with me.
Don't matter.
Okay, any more discussion? Question?
Aye.
All right.
I almost got it, dude.
No clue.
Brittany, can we get a calendar in here?
Yeah, I've got to find one. We have some with one somewhere.
Legal. Clerk's business.
The report, my report is in the notes from the clerk, under notes. And then Julie Bellinger asked me, she's doing the Scram grant, which is the little ankle bracelets for the bad children. And last year she did it through the county, and she was going to request to do it through the county again, but she just never really knows what the commissioners are gonna do or what their mood is when she asks. So it's like under $5,000, and she asked if we would be willing to run it through the town. I don't have any issues running it through the town, it's be an easy grant. So, but she does it for the whole state essentially.
That's just money in, money out.
Money in, money out, yeah. Yeah, she gets like, I think it's 2 or 3 hours a week.
We're getting benefits if one of my kids get one.
Are you
You sound so
anticipating one of your
optimistic,
children?
Angelo. So,
Are you anticipating that? Is this something we wanna put on the agenda for next time?
well, I know she's gonna be coming up with it, so I don't know if the council really needs to vote on it, as long as nobody has a problem with it. But I always wanna let everybody know what's happening and why we're doing it. But she's gonna ask the council
We should
first.
go by.
Okay.
We should go by.
I'm not sure I know what it is.
It's the bracelet that goes around their ankles,
It's got a
Whose
GPS.
ankle?
Bad
the
boys.
criminals, the bad children's
I should
ankles.
say bad boys, bad children,
Yeah,
bad.
when they get in trouble
Delinquents.
and they get home
or
arrest,
Adult delinquents.
Oh,
And she
it's
does
a
it for her?
monitor bracelet.
Yes.
okay.
monitor bracelets, and she does it for the whole state essentially, for the Department of Transportation. So, and I think she said the whole grant is like $4,800 and some odd dollars and some cents a year. And the county, she's gonna ask the commissioner, she just wasn't quite sure, so she was trying to
Well,
make
for
sure.
the
she
whole
had
state,
everything.
how do other counties or other communities? In other words,
This-
if counties generally pay for it,
Some of them, no, the
Middle
county,
County should pay for it.
the counties, well, the counties have some Scram bracelets,
Uh-huh.
but some of these are through,
There's a Scram place out of Missoula.
yeah, and she does all the mailings and monitoring and readjusting them and all of that. It's in and out, the state pays for these ones. Now, like the county, I know she said the county, I don't know if they had 2 or
Bracelets?
3 of the bracelets that they use that are in the county, but if they need more, they can contact Scram, and Scram will give it to them, loan it to them like a library essentially.
The,
is what they
the
do.
person that it gets put on, they pay for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, they pay.
Yeah, it's not something that they get as a freebie. They pay for that. They have to pay for it.
That's why Angela's hoping for benefits.
I was just laughing, because why would they want a freebie?
Yeah.
And the bracelet itself, it has the GPS in it, and they know where they're at. If they're drinking alcohol, it does that, and it's
Monitors
like,
everything.
wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much it did.
Fun out of being a teenager, doesn't it?
So the
$5,000 then is to pay for her wages?
And the postage and all of that goes with it, and all the reporting that she has to do, and it's like 2 or 3 hours a week at the most. But a lot of it, because she works with every county that I know of, they have to contact her, and she knows because they have a certain time life to them, and she can tell them that time life is up, you need to send that back, and we'll swap one out if it's still needed. And
I just find it kind of funny if only us in Mineral County are paying for that wages, or is
we're
other
not
places-
paying for them, the state is paying for them.
That's what the
It's a
grant's for.
reimbursement grant.
Yes.
Okay.
We would pay her, and then it's just like any of the other reimbursement grants we've done. We put it in, the state reimburses us back.
Okay.
It's just like when we did it with the DUI treatment grant,
It's just more paperwork for you.
yeah, and a
As
couple,
long
3
as you're
hours a week.
willing to accept it, I'm for
Yeah,
it.
it's not, that's an easy grant. That really is an easy grant.
Yeah, ours isn't.
When we did the last water project had 7 funding agencies with all different requirements. Yeah, this is an easy grant. Next month, we'll have the lady from DNRC here for the tree inventory. She wanted to come this time, but I'd already posted the agendas and taken the packets around, and she was a little upset that I wouldn't add her to the agenda, but I went, not happening. Doesn't give the public enough notice to know that, but so she's gonna come in and give us our full tree inventory.
City-owned trees?
Yes, city-owned tree, at least that's my understanding, isn't it, Roger?
I think so. Yeah, cause it wasn't, I don't think it's the whole canopy of the town.
I don't
I
think
thought
so.
it was city-owned.
Yeah,
What do we
Guess
do-
we'll find
What
out.
do we do with that?
she really wants us to become a Tree City USA.
What does that do?
Ties you to
It
the
says you're
UN.
gonna budget so much per year to
Maintain
maintain the trees.
She's
Roger,
wasting her-
we're all going, no.
she's
We've
wasting her
denied
tree.
that for 20 years.
They're the ones that gave us the $8,000 to help us prune all these other trees so we can listen.
Yeah.
We already got the money though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent-
You guys get right to the point.
Yes.
It's closing time.
Consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, Kelly makes the motion, Bob seconds it. Any discussion? Question?
Aye.
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 Aye. Make a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Shirley makes the motion, we adjourn, may I have a second?
Why'd you do that? I'll second.
Okay.
You wanna stay here?
Oh, I need to go fix the freezer.
Questions?
I thought I set you up, didn't you?
I unloaded an entire freezer in 15 minutes before I got here.
Need eyes over here or no?
Aye.
Sorry.
Thank you.
If she doesn't have to go through the county, I'll put it on here.
You jumped up and say something.
Do we have any of your voice numbers for outdoor school?
If I'm expecting a call, I won't be here.
Sixth graders.
For calling.
Unless we're going up there and,
You can get, you have one on there that's an hour and counting. Probably not, I think they're more for your seniors. I think well, if you wanna change.
We'll see you later.
Oh, yeah. All, yeah. They'll keep turning, so there's a little ticket gas.
Oh, yeah, no, this will be a great deal to have this in the end.
Doing it, I'm unloading a freezer because the bottom level was unthawed. Yeah, that's what I was doing, rushing before I got here. So he's at home thawing it, we're hoping that it's not dead, that's
Yep.
great.
Yeah, so the guys get an address on, say, 303 Montana Avenue, they can look and see where the documents are, the closest one's actually gonna be this one up here. So they may wanna go back